Hello, everyone, and welcome to EBACE Connect. Thank you for taking a portion of your day to learn with us. Before we get started, I'd like to show you a few features of our webinar platform. We will be accepting questions to ask our speakers. To ask a question, please type it into the Q&A tab on your screen, and one of our speakers will respond as time allows. Q&A for this session will be visible to all attendees. If you see a question you like, feel free to use the thumbs up icon so it gets pushed to the top of the list. Public chat is also open. Keep an eye out for comments and notes from your peers as you enjoy the session. This session is being recorded and will be available to watch on demand 24 hours after it concludes in the EBACE Connect platform. And with that, let's get started.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. Welcome to the power of the connected aircraft for enhanced business jet operations. My name is James Hardy, and I'll be your host for this, the final panel session of this hopefully quite unique EBACE. One of the primary value propositions of a business jet is the gift of time, and this was recognized again right at the beginning of this EBACE. Throughout the pandemic, some level of business aviation operation was often the only viable solution to some travel restriction. Business aviation finds a way. And with that in mind, it was no surprise to many of us in the industry when rapid adoption of onboard internet solutions were taken up. For first and fastest by business aviation passengers over the last 10+ years. After all, once you're on board, you can also be productive or entertained. And with everyone on the ground now much more familiar with this medium of being connected, then the flexibility of an office in the sky is perhaps just another background. And I know some of you out there like to use that function too. While business aviation is always about the passengers first, there are some other unseen benefits for operations and aircraft management that I would like us to explore today. And to understand what these mean for the future of business aviation with all the challenges ahead. At Collins Aerospace, we call this the connected ecosystem. It is an idea that is related to terms like the Internet of Everything, where everything is connected for a purpose. In this panel, we wanted to expand the conversation and talk about how a connected aircraft can help provide an optimal passenger experience, both in the cabin and beyond the cabin. Our panelists will help us all to understand how technology can minimize uncertainty caused by delays, reduce unplanned maintenance, and reduce other causes of frustration for even the best of operations. Joining us all for this discussion today are David Stanley from Collins Aerospace. Welcome, David. And just to polarize the audience a little and check you are unmuted, which one of these is your favorite, American football or baseball?
James, I'll probably disappoint 2/3 of your audience, but I would say American football.
Thank you very much, David. And we also have Nick Vandermeer, Vista Global Chief Operating Officer. Welcome, Nick. I know you're based in a sunny resort, so which is it for you in winter, skiing or snowboarding?
Skiing, fortunately.
A man after my own heart. And Bjorn Stickling, Director of Digital Engine Service at Pratt & Whitney, Canada. Welcome, Bjorn. And as you're based in Canada, which is it for you, lacrosse or ice hockey?
Oh, definitely ice hockey. Go Toronto, go.
So now that we've established some level of controversy for our audience, a little bit more there for Bjorn perhaps, let's unpack our topic today, the power of the connected aircraft for enhanced business jet operations. David first, how accessible is a connected ecosystem to a business jet these days? And what are the constraints with geography, size of aircraft, and equipment costs?
Great question. I think, James, I think the connected ecosystem on a business aircraft has, obviously it's become more of a reality as, we see that continued growth and that need for connectivity, but it's not just about that passenger utilization that originally drove it. It's really expanded into data and data integration. So, these connectivity networks and technology progressing very rapidly, consumer devices progressing very rapidly, new applications every day. The digital and the smart aircraft systems have become a reality. And so what we're seeing is, these things are converging. And so this is really the underlying, that is the connected ecosystem. It is a reality, and maybe a way to break it down, or the way I like to think about the connected ecosystem is it encompasses really three components. You have the network side, you have the hardware, and then you have applications. And so if we break those down and we look at just the networks, just from a network standpoint, the amount of options continue to expand, and it's starting to include aircraft of all sizes for high throughput services. And so, and it's funny, if you think about it, just a few years ago, we had much less options. Data speeds were slow, the cost of bits were high, the size of your aircraft, the coverage requirements really dictated what options were available to you. And so as the market starts to see more players bringing new technologies to consumers, what do we see? We find data speeds going up, we see the cost of the bits going down. But the great thing, I think, is it's bringing more competition to the segment, and that's certainly important, and it's very welcome. The more competitive the market, the more options become available, certainly in hardware, more coverage, and then that price point comes down. But I think the big point here and the big takeaway is that service providers and networks have to start to innovate, and they have to provide differentiation. They have to provide value add, which ultimately benefits that end user or that consumer. Reliability goes up, performance goes up. And so to kind of think about what we see today, Collins offers high throughput satellite services up to 25 megabits per second. These services are like, the JX, the Luxstreams, the Viasats. They still target long range aircraft, but we're seeing these upgrades to ground-based networks that fit smaller aircraft. We're seeing these upcoming low Earth orbit solutions becoming available, like Iridium, Certus. And the form factor is much smaller. It's allowing for smaller sized aircraft to have global coverage. And so these new networks are and the hardware footprints are opening up connectivity options for all aircraft sizes. So that's kind of the network side of things. But if you think about more of the hardware, we talked about the SATCOM hardware, but that's getting smaller. But the other hardware components that we have to think about I refer to as onboard enablement products. And these are things like advanced cabin flight deck routers or gateways that open up a path for EFBs. They open up a path for sensors on engines and avionics. Hosted applications on these routers also open up new capabilities for things like data analytics, digital exchanges, other integrated solutions. And when you start to apply applications on board the aircraft with the different consumer devices or passenger devices, crew devices, you open up weather applications and real-time flight planning applications, crew applications, passenger connectivity applications, have all been enabled as a part of this ecosystem. So what I'd say is our customers are really trying to seek leverage. How do they leverage the power of that connected ecosystem and help them have access to tools? So aircraft operators, they can start to schedule and price and plan to ensure airworthiness, to be able to manage those inevitable disruptions. And they start to create efficiencies. And they're making more informed and proactive decisions, as well as increasing that safety of flight for the ultimate goal, which is that seamless flight.
It sounds fantastic. Nick, can I ask you, VistaJet is one of the largest business jet operators with a global reach. Can you explain your vision and how connectivity solutions are part of that?
That's pretty much exactly as David said. Remember with Vista Global, so either the VistaJet brand or the EXO brand, no matter where the customers get on board the aircraft, if it's a VistaJet from Cape Town to Ulaanbaatar, or it's a XO from New York to LA, or an XO from London to Dubai, our customers must know exactly what to expect on board and have exactly the same level of service for that entire experience. And when, just a little example, when customers are used to ATG in the USA and they come to Europe and generally aircraft didn't even have anything, or it had a very slow, almost dial-up connection, that immediately leads to a big discrepancy. So we started off this journey just trying to find something better than the previous technology that we had on board. And then we started to realize exactly what we could do with this from a operations and a customer point of view. And that was never even expected. We just wanted fast internet on board for our customers. And it's been quite an eye-opener and a 2-year journey of completely transforming the way in which we operate. A simple little example, we take a aircraft with our new flight planning system, highly connected, and a en route alternate changes for the better. We immediately re-upload the flight plan, not just to the FMS, but to the electronic flight bag, which is completely linked in. And all of a sudden we can save 30 minutes off a flight, be far more healthy for the environment, shorten the route, passengers happy, crew are happy that they didn't have to do something they didn't need to do anymore. It just makes it a lot more simple. Then on the back end of it, there's all sorts of benefits, from sending out the invoice at the right time to maintenance planning, as Dave mentioned. So just in the last 2 years, we've really transformed even what we thought was possible. And I'm sure we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, and the challenges of an operator in business aviation are very different to those of traditional airlines. What do you see as the value of reliable communications in an operation, both day to day and for that strategic planning, now that you've kind of realized that, that 2-year plan where things have changed? How are you looking at the long term, even out to 10 years now?
Well, the more discussions we have with Collins, the more of the future opens up. It's a good thing and a bad thing because it keeps us very busy. But there is just so much more that we can achieve. Literally day by day, we are enhancing these things, and it's beyond what we can imagine. So a traditional airline, relatively simple, because at least you know where you're going to be all the time. With us, we're getting last minute bookings to the most remote places of this world. So it's helping us stay connected with a crew. Certain places of the world, the only way we're now connecting with them is they switch on the system, even on the ground, and we can connect to them. That's one of the basic forms of using it, but it's allowing us to keep in good contact with the crew, passengers to keep in contact no matter where they are. Many of our passengers are asking us to ensure that they can do video calls while they're flying. So less important meetings they're still able to do on their ultra long range flight on the Global 7500 while they're traveling to the more important meetings. So there's many areas of that. Our back office is having to be restructured for this because we don't need certain positions that we had in the past. We're re-rolling those people to use clear and accurate data versus data that's been written down and then inputted into a technical journey log and then a picture sent to us. Now everything is happening completely digitally. So our day ends earlier, if you like, or the flight ends a lot earlier, because right after that flight, we can close off the flight, send out the invoice, everyone's happy. Just one of the little examples.
Fantastic. And Bjorn, as an engine manufacturer, reliability is critical, and engine manufacturers were amongst the first to adopt these engine health monitoring plans. How does Pratt & Whitney view the future with more data coming from the aircraft and the insights you can provide to operators? Bjorn, you disappeared for a second. Did you hear my question? Okay, Bjorn, I'll just try one more time with Bjorn, and then if he comes back, we'll do that question. Bjorn, can you hear me? Okay, well, the perils of the internet hit us all again, which is just fun. I'm glad it happened at the sort of the end. I mean, perhaps Nick, you might answer it a little bit from the point of view of dealing with an engine manufacturer, and what do you sort of see as an operator coming back and forth between your maintenance department, your engines managers, and the any engine manufacturer?
We traditionally used to believe that you have to have these big and expensive systems on board your aircraft to do this, right? So yes, you could have these mods done. The Global 7500 came out with something like that. Now through this bespoke router that we've built with hand in hand with Collins and the teams, we can pull any of this data as part of our normal system. That's completely transformational. There is no more need for a big system different for each aircraft type. No, we're installing the same routers, as Dave mentioned, highly customized, highly bespoke across our entire fleet. And then we're getting exactly the same data into the right format, into our back-end systems that we can deal with. If it's off blocks, on blocks, if it's fuel at takeoff, if it is maintenance data on the engines, we're pulling all of that data down. Okay, so these advances have been truly transformational for us.
Fantastic. I'm going to try again with Bjorn now. I can see him moving a little bit. Bjorn, as an engine manufacturer, reliability is critical. How does Pratt & Whitney view the future with more data coming from the aircraft and the insights you can now provide to operators? And you're on mute. I had to get in there somewhere.
Sorry about that. We are very excited over the years that we've been able to get so much more data off the engines. We're very data thirsty. We always want more and more details on the data, and we see that in the in the amount of data and the amount of pull we're getting from systems as well as connectivity. From ourselves, we've got 6,000 engines now connected, live. We get full flight data from those engines that allows us to deliver proactive services and really focus on what we heard earlier as well as availability of the product first and foremost, but then also transforming the way we can deliver services and business to the business aviation community. We are expanding our proactive services over the years. We started in the early 2000s starting to connect aircraft, and then started a proactive.
Okay, well, we seem to have lost Bjorn a little bit there again, just as it was getting a bit more interesting. Okay, let me just move on with you, David, first. The future seems to be data-driven, and the decision-making that comes from that is really the product, if you like. Now that the delivery means are available, so how do each of us, or each of you, manage the cybersecurity aspects of managing so much data of all kinds, and even perhaps the processing of that data to turn it into those valuable insights?
Well, I think, James, I think business aviation's always been unique. Our customers aren't just aircraft operators; it's the passengers in the back of the aircraft, right? We think of security in terms of those passengers, right? That utilize the services, the financial institutions, the healthcare industry, manufacturing, governments, et cetera, are all part of that journey. And so ensuring a customer's data is really something that we're dedicated to doing every day. And we're certainly no stranger to keeping customer data safe. And we operate really on the principle of hypervigilance, I would say. The Collins Aerospace has a unique ability to leverage technologies across several different industries. So we've got decades of experience of providing, proven, comprehensive solutions, not only for business aviation, but airlines, airports, nuclear power plants. I think we provide physical and cybersecurity to approximately 70% of the nuclear power plants in the U.S. So it's a layered approach that implements best practices to help build industry-specific solutions. And that enables our customers to not only meet their requirements, but regulatory requirements as well.
Thank you, David. And Nick, you're dealing every day with high net worth individuals who may be considered targets. How do you go about reassuring them and educating them on their own responsibilities, perhaps whilst on board, and those of your employees with regards to cybersecurity?
Yeah, exactly, James. I think cybersecurity is not just, for us, it was a three-tiered approach. We had to select the correct partner. In designing all of the bespoke items that we designed, we had to be very careful on how we did that and seek very clear guidance. And then, as you mentioned, it's educating the users, right? And the users of this is the end user. It's the customer using the Wi-Fi in the back. It's the crew. It's the maintenance provider going on board to troubleshoot. There's a whole array of people that are touching this, and if they do the wrong thing, they insert the wrong data, smart USB key on their laptop while they're troubleshooting, there is potential for something to go wrong. So we've had a brainstorming session of who all the touch points are, crew, and obviously the passengers are the two main ones, but there are some other ones such as the maintenance providers, and we're working with them day in, day out, reminding them day in, day out of good, healthy security principles to follow. And it's a ever widening net. We have to be incredibly vigilant, and we believe that that's the right layered approach. So the right provider, which we selected, careful design, and constantly just reminding people of their responsibilities.
Yeah, it's that kind of, as David maybe said, the hypervigilance for all of us. I guess almost the lessons of the pandemic kind of come in there, where we all have our own responsibility for everyone else to some degree, and there are bad actors out there. I guess we can't really, this is an important issue for everyone in the aviation industry, and perhaps the biggest challenge facing the planet with climate change and the increasing obligations on us all to do our bit. How does connectivity make an impact on a sustainable aviation business, David?
Well, James, we've got a broad footprint in aviation. I think Collins is in a very unique position to make a positive impact on the future. And I think if we pull on the breadth and the depth of our resources, our knowledge, our experience, it gives us, we've got a very good grasp of the challenges that lie ahead. And so it really comes down to, we're partnering with our customers to drive more sustainable solutions, specifically with a focus on hybrid electric solutions and advanced structures and connectivity. So across the industries, it's not just one company, obviously, but it's the suppliers, it's the airframers, it's the OEMs, and they're all allies in this, right? We're all working towards a common purpose, and that's a great thing to see. I think that advancing sort of these new and expanded efforts in sustainability it's a lofty goal, but it's one that I think we're all joined in together. And as we look to create this more sustainable future, we don't just have our eyes on the sky. We're working continuously to reduce our own environmental impact on the ground as well. I think better efficiency through resource management in our operations and across our supply chain activities are also a part of it. So it's diligence, it's trying to improve our operations in ways that reduce energy usage and emissions and preserve our natural resources. And I think we've made significant progress, certainly in recent years, and we continue to set very aggressive goals as we move forward. And I don't have all the details here for you today, but I'm sure, you know, we look forward to it. It's one of the pillars of our organization as we move forward. And I know you'll hear a lot more on this topic, more specifics in the future.
Nick, what's the view from Vista Global?
Absolutely. You probably saw that recently we announced that we will be carbon neutral at VistaJet by 2025. That's many, many years ahead of the industry average. We firmly believe in it. It's been incredibly tough to get to where we are. That was not just a press announcement we made. It was carefully thought through, carefully worked on, a plan put in place. We achieved 80% of the plan already, and now it's the last bit to go. So we have to do it. I mean, if we look purely at how the connectivity in our aircraft has helped us out, I mentioned the earlier example of how we're getting regular reroutings to save time on longer range flights. There's real life data coming back to us, and you know, we far more closely monitoring APU usage. We know exactly via our flight planning system what the aircraft are doing based on ADS-B departing airports. So we know what the last 100 aircraft have done departing the airport. Have they been kept low, or have they been climbing up more quickly? We can then adjust our fuel load based on that. So there might be an airport where, you know, one day every 2 weeks they keep you really, really low for 45 minutes. You need to take a lot of extra fuel. We can now negate that additional fuel needed to carry that additional weight. So there's a whole long list of areas where that just the fundamental connected aircraft has helped us to be more carbon efficient. And then there are, as Dave mentioned, a whole bunch of other things around the organization, just the way in which we flight plan, the speeds. How can we all get our staff to work in a more carbon-friendly way? How do we, you know, insulate the buildings better? How do we switch to carbon-neutral electricity providers, et cetera, et cetera? But purely from the connected aircraft, there are so many good things happening out there. And that's where I think operators have to all put their heads together and just share ideas. That's not our secret sauce. That's not going to, you know, make our business better. That's going to make the industry better. And I definitely welcome people reaching out. Let's put our heads together on what can we do to make the entire industry better for all of our sakes.
I think that's a fantastic offer to the industry. Thanks, Nick. I'm sure that many people would be interested in doing that. It's certainly a complex problem for all of us to solve, and there's a number of stakeholders that you know are all, you know, looking at it all, whether it's in the air traffic management space and everybody else around and near to an airport or of any kind. Certainly very interesting. I thought we were just about going to get Bjorn back again, so it seems to be coming in a bit.
I can hear you.
Like a passing asteroid. I maybe just like to, you know, consider some of the other things. I mean, we've just come through this long year of code, and hopefully we're going to see us all meeting up again this time next year in Geneva, if not before, if some people are going to Las Vegas for MBAA. What has been the impact of COVID in terms of how you view your operations, Nick? And you know, have you made changes as a result of that you think are going to benefit you?
James, just very quickly, I'm not sure if you know, but Bjorn was hearing us, I believe. Bjorn, Can you hear us? Maybe not anymore. Okay. But well, the biggest change is there's pent-up demand ready to go. Okay, and there's obviously all of these changes around the world. We need to deal with them on a day-by-day basis. We restructured our operation to have a dedicated team who are purely looking after giving us good information as it changes, minute by minute, day by day, and literally sometimes it changes after the flight is already taken off, which presents its next problem. So the changes have been literally restructuring the teams to deal with it, now looking as far forward as we can to deal with this pent-up demand. Over Christmas, we had everyone flying off to the Maldives airports, you know, saw an influx like they've never seen before. That one caught us a little bit off guard. We need to make sure that for the future rush, which we're already sensing from our customers in the way in which they're asking where they can travel to, what they can have booked. We just need to be ahead of the game, because now it's not one or two people going to a certain location per weekend, for example. It's just so many more people trying to get out there. And that's going to present all sorts of logistical challenges, as you can imagine, purely from a airport slot and parking position, as one silly little example. So there's a lot that we've learned from it, and there's a lot that we're preparing for this wave that we believe will happen as soon as people start thinking about, or as soon as they start taking summer breaks.
And I guess you welcome the support of bodies like EBAA in fighting the good fight for the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. EBAA, NBAA, doing a lot of good stuff for us out there.
So Bjorn, we're going to give you one last go, if you like, or a couple even.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to continue. I know it's Monaco this weekend, the Formula One. I'm certainly a fan, and I watch the sort of the data that they're extrapolating in order to make all their decisions. And it just sort of strikes me that if aviation is following that route, then then there's some great opportunities out there. They're operating at the very pinnacle of something for a couple of hours. You're doing it all day, every day for all the aircraft that are flying. With your engines, can you relate to that and maybe give us a glimpse of the future from your viewpoint?
Yeah, there's certainly it's very relatable, and just like with Formula One, there's the immediate, as the mission is going on, and how do you optimize the, like I said earlier, the availability of the product? How do you optimize, the in-service support? If there is a field maintenance intervention that's required, how can we quickly, we can use the real-time or near real-time data that our help desk and our support staff can immediately help the operator by not, first having to download data or looking at it, but in real time, seeing that data and being able to give intelligence. Not quite as real time as Formula One, but you're basically getting to the same feedback loop, and you have that high density data. As I said earlier, on the engine side, we're a little bit data thirsty, and we drive that. So there's the availability piece, which really helps us to transform over time the service packages we've put together. Originally we had, very much cost control and cost guarantee programs, and now we've enhanced those over the years by data becoming a core part of our service and how we deliver services, and how it's really transformed how we deliver services and how we manage the programs. And just again, using your similarity to Formula One, there's a lot of data we also use in the back office, right? So as we can now manage the reliability of programs more proactively as a whole. We can monitor how the product is actually being used versus what we initially anticipated how the product would be used, and we can adapt and adjust and introduce proactively improvements for the product, well ahead of time that we can plan for those improvements. So and on top of that, as we monitor the whole fleet, we can optimize what maintenance interventions and what maintenance programs we put out for operators without unduly burdening them. Because we now can really assess, an emerging field item with the data, which allows us to manage the risk very differently, right? And it's really transformed the way we do risk assessment on product items and on field issues, and how we do the design of those emerging field issues. Because we have that insight of the data, we can get the quality of the first design, we can validate it, and we can get that feedback loop very quickly and test it. On the proactive side, we've got over 340 algorithms. We're monitoring with our partners 22,000 engines out there. And 6,000 are now connected, almost live, with full flight data, and we continue to push more out there. And there's a thirst to connect more and more engines to achieve this. Those are some of the big transformational changes we see, and I think the operators feel it. Just within a short period of time, we've had 80 proactive interventions. These are all interventions that could have resulted in a line interruption, could have resulted in at least a short disruption for the flight crew. And now we were able to reach out with the algorithms and the data before an issue was even known to allow the operator to proactively schedule maintenance, and just becomes a non-event. Okay.
with a network like you've got at VistaJet, Nick, does that I guess that kind of resilience and reliability has a big impact on how many bookings can you consistently take, or knowing that your customers are likely to get there, and maybe you can get down to those 2-second turnaround times that we see in Formula One.
Absolutely. I mean, the more predictable we can be in terms of what needs to be done when that aircraft touches down, the better prepared we can be. On a 16.5-hour long-range flight, there's lots we can get prepared by the time the plane lands in New York or wherever the destination is. We can have engineers waiting with the right box waiting, switch it out and carry on. And as Bjorn said, it becomes a complete non-event for the crew, for the next passenger, for the current passengers. You might have back in the old day, you might have diverted them immediately to a maintenance base where the spare part was. But now you don't have to do that because you can just continue. So there's many benefits. And by us doing that, yes, we can put more flights on our fleet.
And what about the value of the assets as a result of this kind of information? Does it kind of at least hold their value as in terms of depreciation? Or
from my side, I've not seen. John, could you maybe comment on that? Have you seen any addition to the connected aircraft, asset value-wise?
From our end, from the engine side, we certainly see it. So for us, as we look at power by the hour programs, was the original value added, and then as we add more of the total data around the engines, we can provide history. There's a history log now around the power plants, and then around the aircraft at the whole, right? How was it operated? How was it maintained? And just having that good history and the health history of the products drives value for sure, right? And for us, we also have other programs like our certified pre-owned programs at Pratt Canada that build on that data, that allow us to respond to operators that are looking at resell or the like, and provide a history and an inspection report as a whole package, right? Which directly impacts product value.
And Bjorn, perhaps you could also comment on the sustainability programs at Pratt & Whitney, and your sort of view of the future with regards to that aspect.
Yes, we're one of the first ones on the engine side to get a carbon offset program into the market last December. We're proud of that, and one of the reasons we're able to do that is we had comprehensive full flight data for emissions, be able to analyze those to really optimize how we position and market and price the carbon offset program, and that is one key aspect, right? And we look to continue to expand that, and working with other entities out there, OEMs and the like, using the data we get, adding the value added from the engine, and then allowing comprehensive aircraft services, as Nick and was alluding to earlier, right? That the pilot really can fly differently, as well as monitoring carefully and offsetting the fuel flow. And on top of that, of course, we've had great strides in the efficiency of our new power plants. You see it on the regional side, you see it on our new power plants going into the market, and those power plants by necessity have more sensors to be more efficient, have more complexity to really squeeze the efficiency out of the power plants, and that creates an opportunity for more prognostics and also to provide the support services. So really, by having that data, we're able to provide the same reliability, the same availability, everything, and even better out of our more efficient, more sensor-driven new power plants. So those two aspects really, we see that we can continue to drive carbon reductions.
Right, and near-time data, is it or real-time data? Which how does it work out for that? What do you need as an engine manufacturer?
So we need a lot of really high density data, to really do the analytics. So near-time data is good, but that's the trade-off. Real-time data is always better. If you, especially on the longer range aircraft and the that really cross the oceans and long distances and really different maintenance bases, they're far away from maintenance. So the earlier you get the intervention, the earlier our help desk and our support organization can help the operators, right? So that is a key aspect. So however, the near-time data really has made all this analytics and this proactive available to a broader range of business aviation aircraft, right? So you really can service the entire range because you have cost-effective way of getting the data, and everything from our PT6E, the latest product offering, with on the PC12s, where we really have built in the data systems right into the engine bill of material. It's part of the product. We have plane side mobile solutions for the product, and we really get the data density that helps us to support that fleet. So it really, from there all the way to the Gulfstream 500, 600s, and Falcons and everything else that all the other product lines, Latitudes, across a whole OEM base, we are able to offer it because we have that choice between cost-effective near time or striving towards the real time going forward.
So, David, you mentioned the advanced routers a little bit earlier. Are they going to be the solution to the competition that might start to exist between the aircraft as an entity and the passengers and even the crew? How do we manage all the competing areas that want a piece of this data pipe?
I think James, I think it really just comes down to prioritization, right? So you have the onboard connectivity, right? That's certainly, you can, smart routers and routers and gateways, they can manage, they have the ability to manage that data for us and prioritize data, for example. So you don't want to take away from the passenger when they're doing a video call because of another platform running in the background or data trying to be transmitted in the background. You can prioritize that sort of thing. But there's still data that can be transferred that's not, as Bjorn had mentioned, maybe not mission critical or critical to have until the aircraft lands. And once that aircraft lands, either when it gets into a Wi-Fi network, at the hangar, or in an FBO that's got Wi-Fi, or 3G, 4G, and of course 5G. The capabilities are being integrated now of 4G and 5G into some of these smart enablement products, and that's another way that this data can be managed and gotten off the aircraft or even loaded onto the aircraft. So it's really about managing those resources and prioritization of those resources.
Right. Well, I've been checking the Q&A, and I don't see any extra questions, so I'm guessing that maybe I asked enough of the right kind of questions to keep the audience. We certainly had a good audience there, and thank you for your attention during this. This will be available to view, within 24 hours for everybody. It certainly looks to me like the future is quite interesting and exciting for the sort of data-hungry people, and the ability to process information is ever increasingly available too. The ideas that people are now seeing, the opportunities that they're thinking, hold on a second, I've got this on board my aircraft. What else can I do with it? As Nick alluded to as well, with their operation, and I'm sure many other operations out there are thinking at this time about how they can make the best of the technologies that are available, and how that can make them more effective, resilient, and ultimately more sustainable as an industry for the future. So I want to thank you, the panelists here today. Thank you, David Stanley from Collins Aerospace. Thank you, Nick Vandermeer from Vista Global, and thank you, Bjorn Stickling from Pratt & Whitney Canada. I'm going to conclude it there, just a few minutes early, and I hope you all have a great weekend and enjoy. Looking forward to next year's EBACE. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. This session is now concluded. Thank you again to our session sponsor, Collins Aerospace. As a reminder,
Dave, I think we've lost them.
The recording will be available to watch on demand in 24 hours. Thanks again for joining us.
Dave, you can still hear me?